About 6 months ago, I made a video titled The State of the UFC's Bantamweight Division, and I basically just broke down fights that were going to be happening and fights I wanted to see made in the Bantamweight division, which is, in my opinion, the most stacked division in the entire sport of MMA. So today's video is going to be talking about Sugar Sean, the new champion of that division, and how he fares against the rest of the top 10. Starting off with the number one ranked, obviously, the former champion Aljamain Sterling, who just fought Sugar Sean, and it went as you're seeing on the screen. Side note, by the way, this is one of many pictures of the ground and pound shots. This is Aljo's face during that. But yeah, I guess it's an early stoppage. Fuck it. Rematch. Alright, so how do I think a rematch would go between the two? We obviously just saw this as the last pay-per-view, only 2 weeks removed. So it's still fresh in everybody's minds, and I don't think that many people who saw that fight going the way it was going to go before it happened would predict it any differently. Me being one of those people, I predicted the second round straight right hand as Aljamain's coming in. It was one of the best predictions I've had all year. And to be honest, I don't really see Sean O'Malley losing against Aljamain majority of the time. I think it's like 8 out of 10 times Sean O'Malley would win, and here's why. Aljamain is great when he's able to get into a gritty, like, war type of fight, or maybe not necessarily a war, but like a grappler's delight, where he can get in the clinch and use his awkward length and his awkward style and his long limbs to really tangle up his opponent. Sean O'Malley never gets in those types of situations in his fights. He just stays at range and picks his shots, so I really can't see it being any different. Now, as for Murad, realistically, this should be the next fight to make, in my opinion. I mean, aside from the fact that Aljamain 1000% deserves the rematch clause. I mean, he showed up at Boston when he just fought at like 288, not that long ago, and he didn't really get the best conditions for this fight, in my opinion. On top of that, he's just been like kind of going through the shit when it comes to his career and like when it comes to the fans and all that. And he still keeps winning. He just kept winning, and he defended his belt the most times at any bantamweight champion. So I think he deserves the rematch. But when it comes to Murad, if they were to give him that fight, I think it's the most competitive fight the bantamweight division could see at this current moment. I mean, you know, because there's a title involved in all of that. I think Murad actually might be Sugar Sean's style nightmare matchup, just because he's so relentless with those takedowns. The only thing that I see being a really big problem for Murad, sorry, I just had a stroke there, is he's too short, and I feel like Sean just pieces up short fighters. I think him and Henry Cejudo are going to have a really hard time finding anything with Sean in the first round, especially finding a shot on him, finding any type of damage because of how he's built. So I would take Sean in this probably majority of the time. And then we have the number 3 in the bantamweight division, Henry Cejudo, former double champion. This is a matchup that, okay, I take it back. Murad, maybe not the style nightmare matchup. Henry Cejudo, I feel like, would be the style nightmare matchup. Because he has the Olympic level wrestling, he has the fight IQ, which are two of like big counters when it comes to fighting Sean. Similarly to Murad's issue, I just feel like Henry Cejudo is way too small, and he's going to have way too hard of a time getting in on Sean O'Malley to work his game plan, and I feel like he's going to take way too much damage. So I do see Sean winning, like, at least, I'd say like probably 4 out of 10 times, but I would go with Henry Cejudo for majority of the time. So I would probably pick Henry Cejudo if they fought. If that fight was scheduled for some reason, let's say in December, I'd probably pick Henry Cejudo. I would trust him to win 60% of the time. That wrestling and that fight IQ is so important. I feel like he'll just know exactly what he needs to do and execute the game plan pretty flawlessly. He's going to have a hard time getting in, like I said, but he will have the chin and the heart to endure that type of damage. And with the grappling mix-up, I just feel like it'd be a lot for Sean, and he'd end up on his back way more than he had expected, probably lose a decision. Triple C for the win, baby. Let's move on to the next contender, Corey Sandhagen, the number 4 ranked bantamweight. This is another difficult matchup for the champion. Sean O'Malley loves to utilize his reach advantage, his height advantage, his range, play the range game, sniper with his movements, with his shot selection, and super swift and clean on the feet with his movements. And that's what Corey Sandhagen is honestly, he's built his game off of as well. He's built his game off of being an elite striker, easily top 5 strikers in the UFC, in my opinion personally. And honestly, Sean O'Malley might be in that top 5 list as well. So this would be an awesome matchup to watch. What I think would be the force multiplier is Corey Sandhagen's grappling, and he's only been improving it more and more and using it to shut down more and more high-level bantamweights. So I would trust him to probably beat Sean O'Malley like 7 out of 10 times. See, I said Murad is the nightmare matchup, but then I have Henry Cejudo beating him and Corey Sandhagen beating him even more than Henry would. So maybe Corey's the nightmare matchup. I don't know, but I do feel like it would be a difficult time for Corey on the feet if he just kept it strictly on the feet. I think Sean O'Malley would probably win a kickboxing match the majority of the time, but Corey Sandhagen is just too smart for that. Sugar Shane versus Piotr Yan 2. 134. Alright, so let's just get into what my opinion was on the first fight. I had Sean winning rounds 1 and round 3. I mean, I know it's probably going to make it so, like, my dislike ratio shoots the fuck up now. But I don't give a fuck. If you guys watched that fight and you scored it based on damage, it's hard not to give that fight to Sean O'Malley. It's super close. Super, super close. But you gotta go with Sean if you're really going based off of damage. Now, if you have a fucking, like, thing for hating on Sean, or you have like a boner for Piotr Yan, then I understand your frustrations and you're probably going to forever argue that it's a Piotr Yan split decision. But honestly, let's be real. If Sugar went into a rematch expecting that he's going to try to mix up the grappling and whatnot when he's not doing well on the feet, I think he's going to be able to defend every single takedown that Piotr Yan throws at him. Piotr Yan isn't the same grappler as Aljamain Sterling, and he did it with ease. So I got to take Sean. Moving on, we have Cheeto Vera, another rematch for Sugar Shane. Again, let's be real. Cheeto Vera won that fight based off of a fluke. Like, he was losing on the feet while Sean was already like bouncing around, hobbling with 1 foot dead. And then one thing I do want to talk about though, Cheeto Vera fucking, I think, knocked him out when he was landing the ground and pound strikes. And it's something that nobody talks about and I don't understand it. I'm pretty sure you can watch Sean go out for a second. Maybe I'm tripping, but it looked bad when it went to the ground. Either way, in a rematch without some fluky shit happening, I can't see Cheeto doing well at all. Unless he tries his hardest to mix in the grappling. And again, I can't see him being better than Aljamain Sterling would be in that department. I feel like it would have to be some like, oh, I'm losing on the feet. This motherfucker's not going to expect it. Boom, blast a double and show off your amazing grappling skills like Piotr Yan did. But I just don't see it happening. I think Sean O'Malley wins against somebody like Cheeto Vera probably like 8-9 times out of 10. The only thing that's going to give Sean a lot of problems or frustrate his game is Cheeto's amazing defense. And that man has some like weird freak of nature genetics where he can't get cut or show any sort of damage from the fight. And it protects him in when it goes to the scorecards. So maybe he could win some robbery. I don't know. Then we have Song Yadong. Probably my favorite prospect coming up in the bantamweight division, aside from somebody we're going to talk about at the end of the video, the very end. Song Yadong versus Sean O'Malley would be a good fight. I think Song, out of everybody on this list, though, would get his ass beat the quickest because the way that he fights, it's all about his explosive movements, getting inside the pocket and landing those fucking crisp uppercuts and hooks that he has. Wicked fast. Sean O'Malley's just going to be poking at him at range, staying at his distance, playing his game, and he's never going to be in there to be taking that type of damage. And I think he would get somebody like Song Yadong out of there in like 2 rounds. Song's tough, so I think he can make it past the first. But if he doesn't mix in his grappling and like successfully land takedowns and then just hold Sean there, can't really see him winning. And even if he does take somebody like Sean down, I think with their frames, the way it would line up, Sean would just end up like wrapping up a sub or using the momentum from all the jiu-jitsu sweeps, and he would just get back to his feet and then piece him up. So sadly, I think Song Yadong is going to have to work on his game and like show that he can be more of a championship caliber fighter and mix in all aspects of MMA before he beats somebody like Sugar. Then we have Dominic Cruz, somebody that can do exactly that, which what I was just talking about. It's a fire transition. Dominic Cruz is that guy. The only problem is he's old, he's past his prime, he's chinny as fuck, and I think Sean O'Malley would probably obliterate him. Bruh, I'm having strokes today. Obliterate him in 1 round. I think that's what would happen a majority of the time. Dominic Cruz would have to be blessed from God himself for the match with an amazing chin and all of his reflexes back, tuned perfectly. Doesn't feel any of his former injuries because you already know they have to affect him in some way. Dominic Cruz is a mental freak of nature. You never know with somebody like him. He could come back and be the 3-time and it would be awesome if for some reason they gave him a title shot. But let's be real, man. Sean's young and he just moves a bit better. I think he'd piece up Dom's legs really quickly and then snipe him on the feet. Probably landing a head kick just like Cejudo did and like putting him out bad. So I don't know if I ever want to actually see this matchup just because, you know, I don't want to see Dom get put out bad. He's a legend of the game. Give him a good matchup to retire this man, honestly, because now that I think about it, he probably will want to keep fighting. He probably has a fight that he's working towards next. Maybe he'll come back in December or something. Let's give him somebody that's like, you know, kind of along his level. Don't feed him some up-and-coming killer. Maybe Kyler Phillips, honestly. Kyler Phillips is a good matchup. Spoiler, that's what I'm going to talk about at the end of this video. But I think Kyler Phillips versus Dominic Cruz would be an awesome matchup to have Dom retire on, because Kyler is a killer, but he's not going to put him out bad. Then we have Umar Nurmagomedov, one of the most talented prospects in all of MMA, especially in the Bantamweight division. Just took out Raoni Barcelos in his last fight. He's been out for a while due to an injury. He was supposed to fight Corey Sandhagen, but then pulled out pretty soon to when that card actually ended up happening. That's why Rob Font stepped in. See, Umar, with his stand-up, it could be a little bit tricky just because he can mix that in with the grappling and probably hide some of the takedowns and whatnot. But if he stays on the feet for too long, Sean's going to beat the fuck out of him. Like, let's be real. Even you Dagestani meat writers know for a damn fact that Umar is getting starched on the feet. Where he does his best work would be on the ground with Sean. If he can close the distance quick, establish cage control, get him up against the corner of the cage, and then, you know, shoot his takedowns or go for something. Maybe try to catch him in like a trip or like just a clinch exchange. Just make it weird. Make it so it's like a dogfight, and I think that would be your best bet with Sean. If you try to play a clean kickboxing fight or like a clean kickboxing transitioning into wrestling or grappling and then going back and forth, it's just not going to work. I've seen it too many times. I don't care if I haven't seen it with the highest level fighters. You can tell when you see a high level athlete what a high level athlete is, and you can do that to anybody. So Umar's best bet is if he wrestles. And then we have the final prospect of the video, Kyler Phillips. He's not really ranked, but let's be real, I've been high on Kyler Phillips for a couple of years now. All year since January, since when I made the channel. Since the first video I made, the first Gladiator guide I made on Kyler Phillips. One of the only fighters, by the way, in the Gladiator guide that isn't like a champion or like a high-ranking contender or a superstar. That's how high I am on this man. Sorry for the little rant. Kyler versus Sean would be interesting, one, because they're training partners, and I don't think it would ever happen simply due to that fact. But two, because Kyler Phillips is equally as wild and like technically sharp on the feet. Now, I wouldn't say he throws with as much power, as much speed and precision, but he throws with just as much variety of techniques, and he's just as clean at it. You need to watch the Matrix fight if you haven't seen him fight. Again, I'm high on him for a reason. His only loss in the UFC thus far was to Raulian Paiva, and it was such a bullshit split decision, or was it a majority decision loss? Or split, one of the two. If it was unanimous and I'm forgetting that, that's even more crazy because Raulian Paiva lost the fight in my opinion. But regardless of that, Kyler has just looked great in every single matchup that he's been put in. He just fought Raoni Barcelos, a killer in the division, and he kind of made it look easy, I'm not going to lie. He might have lost a round in that, but he made it look easy. I want to see him moving up against the top 15, and I could see him fighting for a championship real soon. So, I mean, that's my thoughts on Sean O'Malley versus the top 10. I know it wasn't exactly the full top 10 in order, but it was 10 contenders, and it was the most important matchups you want to see. Like, let's be real, you don't care about Rob Font versus Sean O'Malley. You don't care about Pedro Munoz too. Like, there's a reason that a couple fighters had to be left out of it, and a couple had to be added. Umar, in my opinion, belongs in the top 10. He'll be in there probably by the end of the year, if not by the beginning of next year, so the first quarter of next year. So, yeah, let me know what you guys think down below. I had a lot of fun making this video. I loved the Bantamweight division, like I said, and it feels like a part 2 to the video I made earlier in the year. So let me know what your guys' thoughts are. Let me know how you think Sean O'Malley's Bantamweight reign is going to go. Who's he going to lose to? Is he just going to lose the belt instantly? Will he rack up defenses? I don't know. Let me know, and give me some more ideas for some video topics, guys. I can pump out some great videos if you guys just give me some feedback. Let me know what you want to see, what you want to listen to. All right, I love y'all, and I'll catch y'all. Have a good one.